All right, let's jump into it. Just on the new hour. It's 11 o'clock on 11th of February. So, sister's birthday. So, happy birthday to the sister for today. Look, where we got to start off? Can you start off anywhere other than sort of gold? What an absolute rip this has been. Look, it's been hitting into major price targets and that. It's crazy, man. Look, it's only 11 o'clock on that, so we haven't really got sort of volume in for Asia as of yet, but we've been just hit with a barrage of headlines already. Might as well sort of see if we can sort of flick across to some of them. But if I can find them in 2 seconds, great. Otherwise, we'll tick along on that. But basically, Trump fully signed in the sort of 25% tariff on sort of steel and aluminium, I think it was, for that sort of one. Um, there was a headline where, he's considering, which again, when it's sort of these sort of things about, oh, he's considering this and that, take it with a grain of salt because it doesn't really mean anything. But excluding Aussie dollar, oh, not Aussie dollar, but excluding Australia from some sort of tariffs, Aussie jumped on that and subsequently sort of kind of like sold into a little bit. Just flicking through a couple of the ones. This is one that's definitely going to be sort of worth paying attention to towards the end of the week. This is sort of like, that China sort of tariffs are sort of coming into effect come Monday. So he's also just had a Trump, here we go, the sort of reinstituted the 25% steel and aluminium tariffs. Um, Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, something to watch sort of coming into Monday. No, that's right. Yeah, you had a chat with G already this morning as well, but apparently didn't want to say anything about it, which I don't know whether to take that as a positive. I would probably, well, I wouldn't take it as a positive. I don't know whether to just ignore that or to actually sort of take it as potentially a bit of a negative because we know that Trump loves to sort of be like, we had a great talk, great chat. So, absence of that, does that mean that it wasn't, as good as they kind of thought it may have been? Who knows? But anyway, onto the charts with it all. So yeah, it's been a hectic morning already. And look, the reason I sort of brought up that stuff with the headlines is because obviously we saw gold just jump on its open, like it stuffed around for a second and then just went bang straight up here, smashing that price target and fully sort of completed this measured move. Chart likes to load at some stage. No. Oof. Right, I can't stand tech issues. All right, one sec. All right, so they just got to not flip through the charts too quickly. Anyway, long story short, hit that price target that we had sort of marked out. This is the measured move of this triangle through here. As I said the other day, this is why I'd like to sort of put it down at this point here, which is giving us our measured move target up over here, just for the fact that this kind of like, as this line cuts through here, has had contact of here, and this is the first time it actually has contact here. So opposed to having this kind of larger sort of target through here, which of course would put it up to that sort of 29.65. Look, should we sort of easily cruise through this level? This could be something to look for as another sort of measure move target. But as I said, like I'm happy with that target being taken out for now. And I think that this is where we could see a little bit of sort of pullback through here. Look, I don't think it's going to be some crazy sell down kind of thing. Certainly that headline I was obviously got it sort of fired up this morning. I have a couple of tech issues with these charts. Very slow this morning with trading view. There we go. Um, so we saw it obviously sort of just open and run bang straight up here. So look, it's still incredibly bullish. Don't get me wrong. We're not sort of like necessarily looking to sort of see anything major sell-offs in that. But when you have these price targets, as you can see here yesterday, as it clipped into this area, it sold back down. Tried to get up in, sold back down again. Yes, this news pushed it through the top side here. It wants to sort of, it would need to sort of like really hold this move to the top side to see sort of further continuation here because yeah, you got the knee-jerk reaction off the data or well, data off the news, the headlines that have just come out, and bang, it's pushed it up. So it's had that sort of positive effect. But as of yet, I mean, look, we as I said at the start of this, we haven't really had the major sort of volume for the session come in. So, you know what I mean, this could definitely still stay bullish and push through higher here. But it did sort of come up with a nice little ledge through here that I was sort of trading with a mate yesterday, and we were sort of like, you know, well, actually, to tell you the truth, I was sort of getting short moves just through this area through here. But this is really where you want to sort of see it come down underneath. And look, in all fairness, it had a nice little rejection here, had a nice little rejection here, broke and ran, consolidated, ran up a little bit higher. I still think a retest, at least of like potentially this wick down here to potentially the top side of this little box here, could be some downside targets to get a little bit of a move. Should it break this level at sort of like, you know, 29 to move here to then sort of move on. So something to this sort of effect into here. Now, I'm not sort of saying, look, okay, jump on the shorts here and, okay, look, bet the house on it short here, because obviously it's incredibly bullish. What I'm sort of thinking is sort of like, I think there's a very high risk in taking longs at this point. Look, I could come back tomorrow and it'd be 29.60. But the point is that as it is at the moment, I think the better play here is to sort of have the price target that's been met, let the market take some profit, let some people take some pressure off, have a cool off, have a technical retest, reload, and then sort of look to shoot on. Look, if we go above 22 right now, which is obviously just that little spike high that we did there, 21.6 or whatever it came to, look, that's pretty much opens it up, move on. 1 hour RSI set to rock on a little bit more through there, so there's nothing really sort of holding that back. So certainly if it takes out the high, bang, on it goes. Also sort of what's happening with DXY in a moment. Little bit overbought on the 4 hour, but nothing of concern. I mean, it's still pointing very much up there. It hasn't even sort of rounded off or that. So, look, upside is definitely you know, the way to go through here. As I said yesterday, I thought we would have got a bit more of a consolidation down to the side over here. I took some longs, obviously early down here, got out here, got in here, got out here, and then it just bang, sort of ran and ran and ran and went up over there. So it is just an absolute beast at the moment. So yeah, certainly if you are going to try and sort of fade anything, it'll be very quick in and outs. But I think the better bet is probably to potentially even sort of look for the pullbacks to have a little bit of a safer bet with the longs to then sort of catch the next wave of it sort of moving up. Like even if we just sort of had a look through this last leg through here, up. Look at 23%, 38% retracement comes to the top of these wicks, which was sort of Friday nights, which at the time was the all-time high. I mean, you say sort of like previous all-time high, and sort of like, yeah, you mean last Friday. But yeah, sort of like the wicks from Friday, potentially sort of come around here, jump on board. To me, that's a little bit more of a low risk area. 38% is still very bullish. And again, we're just talking just this one move through here, which is sort of like last week's. Actually, no, was that Friday last week? Was it? But the low came in on the Monday 7th. Yeah, so yeah, so yeah, the Friday the week before, probably just into the close before we had that big sell off on the Monday morning. But you know, we're just talking this little bit here. You know, forget all this sort of stuff along here where we're incredibly like, you know, up in the top. I mean, there's no pullback basically. You know what I mean? But I think sort of certainly if you could shake a couple of people here, you know, get the people that bought in this section here, bought it overnight, looking for the continuation, bought the headline, stop them out, shake them out, take them, get back in. If you get back down in around these 29.80s, 28.80s, yeah, I forget what 100 we're in. It's just insane to be saying these numbers in relation to gold. If you can, yeah, if you can luckily buy just underneath 2900, you know, if you can get back in around here, it's a lot more of a low risk, in my opinion, to then potentially get that next move through. As I said, price target's been hit, so I'm going to sit on this one just for the time being. All right, flip across the other metal. We got silver. Silver really just sort of consolidating these highs over here. Let's jump onto the other silver chart we're using. charts would like to load. Look, so basically what we've sort of seen from this, we had the confluence yesterday, which actually sort of provided a beautiful push up off the lows. We're coming back into another level that obviously we've had previously marked out, which are these wick highs just from that sell down period. So it's tested up here a couple of times. We put the box on it over the weekend. So look, if it comes down here, this is where we were looking. Obviously, that sort of rising support held. So now it's another test. This is really, obviously, as you can see, it's just sort of consolidating this period through here. Certainly, I think downside risks, sort of obviously a break of this rising support and then through yesterday's lows. That gives you a bit of a rounded top kind of thing and, back into probably a larger kind of range. Again, probably looking down at this area, should all that stuff break. I think a fairly quick sort of little move down to this side here. Should you lose the momentum, i.e. break the channel, take out the swing high, which confirms the horizontal lower low, that it's not just a little fake out, shake out, bang back into it. As I said, that's more of a sort of copper kind of move than silver. Silver will more often than not sort of respect the chart pretty well. But yeah, I think so. It still remains, as I said, above sort of 32 or 3260 thereabouts, this top area of the zone over here. And as basically we've got this box drawn out here underneath 3180, I think is the zone. But as you can see, really much is just sort of consolidating at the moment, waiting to sort of see what gold could do. This RSI, this is on the 4 hour here. Obviously, you can see that as this came up and hit that high on Friday night, that's very, very low. If you consider, like, this is the thing, is with negative divergence, you've got your technical straight sort of move of like, moving up and then moving down. That's fine. But, technically this is an up. But even so, these kind of moves like this, moving across, and then you use this with the buying pressure here, is also almost just as good. And you can see what the reaction was with this sort of move as well, because like it used all the, well, not used all, but it used all the sort of strength to get up to the top over here, pulls back, that's fine, has another shot up, comes up to the same level. Whether this came here or even just sort of came up and rejected at the same level, it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily need to put in a mammoth new high. Obviously, that's probably a little bit more of an indicator, but at the same time, you can still use it with equal highs with a lower pressure to sort of get back up there. And as you can see, results still the same. And bang, got sold back down there with that. So yeah, look, I think sort of for the time being, we're just looking for a break above 32.50 to sort of see this thing move on a little bit more. If we do see gold sort of shake out a little bit down here, we could see obviously silver or do the little bit same, maybe take out some of these lows and then sort of come back up. I certainly wouldn't be looking for any sort of major shorts or anything. But I think sort of like, it doesn't mean that we can't sort of, shake a few people, consolidate for a little bit longer. We do have CPI, of course, coming up later this week, which I think will be the main driver for things really. All right, and may as well get on to DXY while we're talking about this. And as you can see, sort of, look, we got that sort of move up, the rejection, pretty much sort of kind of as we thought. Obviously, it didn't come quite as high as we thought, sort of up over here. But, this little bear flag that we kind of potentially sort of drawing out over the weekend. If you jump on the lower time frame, might be able to see the gap. There's your gap from Monday morning. Same sort of thing there. Came back down, closed the gap, and as you can see, this is why gap, it's, these gap things are, trend line here. You can see the gap through here. Here's your, put that, oops, there you go, dead straight line. Get that little, oh, let me get that thing off. Yeah, something like this, whatever. As you can see, came back down here, closed the gap perfectly, and then bing, shot straight back off. That's why if you're trading these things, typically I've found as well with DXY, a good way to sort of trade these gaps. If it doesn't close it straight away, look towards the end of sort of Euro session towards US session for it to sort of come, and you can see 10 o'clock it actually finally closed the gap, and it was obviously moving down there throughout most of the day. But you can, if you don't close it straight away, 9 out of 10 times it'll close it in the session. Sometimes we do get those runaway ones where we had, where was it, this gap the other week, and it took, a week or so for it to close. But this is an exception to it all. Generally, if you don't see that close through um, straight away, you'll see it in the rest of your session. So that's something you can sort of trade through as well. What we have sort of seen, obviously, is a bang, a little bit of a push up, nothing super explosion. It is still sort of in this sort of drag and across grind over this way here. We'll see how things open up today. As I said, CPI is the big one that's going to get things moving, I reckon. I'm still looking for this kind of potential move, this sort of up and over here, rolling over. It did sort of come in some expected resistance areas. For me, it's just not really doing anything though. It's just kind of consolidating, consolidating this bounce, moving up into overbought. Here's 1 hour, 4 hour. Yeah, as you can see, close the gap and then sort of, it's not, these aren't sort of like, okay, bang, let's rock it up here kind of sort of candles, obviously. They're just sort of like a little, okay, close the gap, dribble up here. I think certainly sort of underneath yesterday's low. Let's drag that out, whoops. Use that gap level. I think that'll be sort of a downside trigger. I think sort of, actually, was that the open? No, that was Saturday's open there. So yeah, I think pretty much sort of like underneath yesterday's low, where it sort of closed the gap, basically open for the week, call it that. This turns this whole area into a top wick for a weekly. And if you can get back down under here, you've got a top wick, flipping your weekly, which can start to pick up some momentum and push back down here. Obviously, if this is a bear flag, you're going to get some resistance, or sorry, support around these kind of areas over here. We've got a horizontal, we've got this potential rising support through here, but I think certainly this is an area that we can at least target in the short term to sort of see, is this going to come through and then break? I don't think we're going to get any major breaks in that till CPI. And look, that could still push us up over here. As I said, look, I think above, 109, you got to consider that this might be sort of going back up to undo this move. But I think there's a little bit of a way to go before you get to this. And I think that we've probably sort of got more of a sort of 107.80 sort of more short-term target prior to that. All right. Yeah, so top side, look, if you go above 108, I still think, look, I'm not even really going to say, hey, go above this because you're going up, because you're running into a whole bunch of different resistances up around this area here. Maybe if you get above sort of 108.68, I'll start to sort of think, okay, is this going up to test this lot? But again, you've got a bunch of levels of resistance and plausible areas where the market can sell this thing down from, should it decide to keep sort of grinding up here a little bit. I'm probably more focused on this move coming down through here, which will obviously be confirmed underneath 108.07 or 108.08, whatever, and change that kind of little move through there. Okay, flip across. Got Aussie. So as I said, we had a headline with Aussie earlier, sort of saying that we sort of Aussie may be sort of exempted from tariffs. And had a little for a second had a little push up. I think it sort of moved up what sort of like 10 points or something off that. This on the 4 hours, so you can't really see that here. Probably enough to give us that top wick there. But realistically, as I said, we're the tail end of what happens with US, and I think the sort of the 25% tariffs probably weighed on things a little bit more than that. Weighed on things a little bit more than the unconcrete, non-concrete sort of headline that Aussie might be exempted. You know what I mean? You've got one thing saying 25% tariffs on everyone, which hit Canada, hit Australia, and then you've got a sort of counter headline of, oh, we might be exempted. Like it's just Chinese whispers. So obviously, bang, market sold into it. I think we actually just had a little bit of data out with consumer sentiment. So update this one. Look, this is what I was saying on the weekend as well, that I kind of expected this to sort of tick up a little bit. So I mean, not that it really means anything, but it's slightly moving in that sort of more positive direction at least. And we've got another one coming out in 8 minutes, so we'll see how that sort of pops out. Back onto Aussie though. So look, this is what I was saying over the weekend that look, potentially we'd see a little shootout to the bottom, just carry this flow down here and then back up into this little consolidation. And that's pretty much exactly what we've done around that sort of 70s area. And it's just oscillating. So look, like so sometimes you call it wrong, sometimes you call it exactly as the as the flow goes, and that is exactly what happened. We came down here and it just shot straight back up into here, consolidating this area. I still think this is in play. I think above sort of 63 is going to be you probably a sort of trigger. Obviously, major breakout confirmed above those highs from the other week, the 63 20, 63 30 kind of area. But for now, look, it's back up here. It's consolidating. It's moving around. Nothing too exciting. Um, so let's chuck this onto the hourly. See if we can do anything. Geez, these charts are slow this morning. There we go. All right, so where we are, 11:23. So look, it's sort of sold down, as I said, a little bit of that tariff news, but we're still, really just waiting for a little bit of data to come through. It's just taken out all the lows of this little move that it's done overnight. Look, I think sort of if you can get back up, look, we're seeing a little bit of resistance, obviously, in this 80s area here. We can put like a little, just a little through here. Actually, what I'm going to do is highlight this and put it on a higher time frame because we don't need it here. It's not important on the 1 hour. Above, bang, there we go. So let's get back onto the 20-minute chart change. There we go. All right, a little bit clearer anyway. So look, we do have a sort of band through the middle here, but this is what I say about these sort of these sort of ranges. You generally have a midway point. As you can see, with support here, support here, support here, resistance. So it's oscillating back and up around here. What I'd like to sort of see is probably a move above sort of 85. And you want to see it hold up here. It's obviously sort of tried to get up here a couple of times, even if you move that down a little bit there. You can see that, actually, no, I'm not going to leave that there, and I'll explain in a second. 1 second. Yeah, so I want to see sort of a move up above these 80s to sort of look what's going to happen, up around the 63 zone over here, which again is only 15 sort of points through there. But as you can see, the reason I kept that resistance there a little bit higher. One, I like body fills. That's kind of my thing with it all. We got the little wick that matches this up here as well. But this one, failure to sort of get out. The reason I didn't just drag this down and say that's where the sellers are is because the push up to here failed to get to where we would call the sell zone. So yes, it's kind of dropped only a point or two short, but look at the resulting price action afterwards. Bang, smack back down. And I think that's important to make sure that the levels are very much on point, because when things fail to sort of do the continuation, that's an early indication. Like with channels, as it fails to continue the structure of the channel and starts to sort of pull away from it, that's your indication that that sort of structure is breaking down a little bit and the market's not reacting to it. So this is where they kind of have been sitting. Okay, body fills. We've seen the little wick up the top here. This time here, they got up here, and this is probably just off that headline, as I mentioned before. But regardless of what it is, there, and then bang, sold down there. So we'll see how we go. Look, it's taken out the wicks. Anybody that was kind of sort of trading sort of technicals through this area here and sort of, putting, say, the textbook told them to put the stop there. Well, they've just been clipped out. Good on them. So I could see this probably just pushing back up and grinding through here, particularly if we do see that more of a sort of sell-off with DXY sort of through this session, which is online in 20 minutes or so. So we'll see how that one sort of goes. But for the moment, I think it's really just mainly in this sort of consolidation. Downside of this here, I would say sort of around this area here, around sort of 6250s, should this continue to melt down through here. I think these are the kind of zones that you're looking for. 50s, 40, underneath 40, I think this thing's probably something else is going on and you're probably looking a little bit deeper back down to those 62s, but I'm not really sort of thinking about that at the moment. Well, I'm not thinking about that as a plausible direction for it, I should say. All right, and partly of that is because of copper, and copper is absolutely destroying the shorts. it is absolutely ripping up. As I said, I covered this the other day, and I said, look, this is the only thing I've seen which has absolutely now, like at the time, was like, okay, hadn't gone through, but it is absolutely destroying where things were at the election. This is the election. That's the election there, post-election, boom, and subsequent, boom. It is back over that. It's at highs. It's taking out this horizontal. Look, this is looking to move to 488 here, I'd say next. So let's just take this one and put it up over here and say, look, this is probably our next little zone to be happy to look for. There and change. Up around sort of 488. And this is why I think that sort of Aussie, despite the fact that, they have a bit of a sort of turbulent relationship. We saw price target taken out with copper, but Aussie typically has a good relationship with copper in its movements. And copper going through the roof like this is kind of something that I think is partly the reason for Aussie sort of holding up here a little bit as well. But that aside, it is just absolutely ripping. Smashed the price target, came through that horizontal. So as I said, I was just looking back over here. So we're talking going back to May last year. So that's what, 7 months? What's that? No, 9 months. So 9 month highs, and then probably looking at 489. Probably with a little bit of a consolidation, potential pullback through here. That's fine. Look, it's a little bit overbought and tipping down here. I don't think this is about to necessarily come all the way back down over here. So I think, if anything, maybe chill out for a little bit and then, maybe later in the week, see how CPI goes. If it's favorable, I think this is probably the 488 is the next sort of price target that you'd be looking for. I think it's a pretty clear-cut shot through this area should it decide to move up there. You can see these little low parts of that range there. So, yeah, certainly, absolutely on a rip. Price targets hit. I'd probably be sitting on this one just for the moment, but you can see that this, once it sort of really came out of this sort of wedge through here, and this is what I would say, sort of like, this is very much what, what's it called, copper likes to do, fakes out, fakes out, fakes out, then it rips, and moves sort of to the top side. So, yeah, very, very sort of decent trade there. So 11:30, getting a little bit of volume in, but about 45 minutes to an hour, and we should see some directions with the market for the session anyway. All right, finish off with China. I haven't actually seen most things. Most things, a lot of things I'm in touch with all the way through the night through the session. And I was about to say, it's very slow tonight. Slow today, sorry. But China, I hadn't actually sort of seen. It doesn't seem like that conversation or lack of conversation or lack of word of the conversation has had really any sort of impact on the yuan. Obviously, it's just grinding sideways. Pretty much very similar in the sense of DXY. You know what I mean? Gap up, closed it, then dribbled sideways. But yes, as I said, the fact that he had the conversation with Xi but doesn't want to say what happened doesn't seem to have spooked the market. So, as I said, the thought was that it could possibly be that a non commented on conversation could be a bad conversation. Like, it's better to say nothing than to say something negative about it all. Again, that's just a sort of thought with it all. But as you can see, it's really just sort of consolidating through this area here. I think that's the zone I want to see broken. That's a breakout box there. And through this box here, look, I've given it a little bit of a leeway here because you could say this here, but realistically, you're going to see some support for, like it did. Is this yesterday? Or is that Saturday? Saturday's lows through there. Even if you do come back down over here, you've got retest because we know that this is a strong band through here. We've got this potential rising support through here. So there's a lot of work to get this down here at this point. There's not really a great deal you can sort of say about it all. Like, you can't even really draw anything. There's no sort of straight structure. There's no bear flag structure or anything like. I mean, this is kind of technically like that, but you'd want this to really sort of come back down. I think if you do get it pushed down, this is an area you're definitely going to see some sort of reaction as a confluence, because You've got this rising support, you've got this horizontal, so potentially, if anything, road or path to down would be something, whoops, like that, should it sort of come to that. There's always the chance that, as you can see, moving up, consolidating, that it rolls up and just moves another level higher. So I think sort of outside, look above yesterday's highs, which is the top side of what we've just drawn this little box to be. Okay, you look for a little bit of a grind up, and we know that this how it does. Grind sideways, gears up, grind sideways. Yeah, it's a slow moving pair. I say this pretty much every day. But the path to down is somewhat like this. I think, it's not going to be easy. Uh, I think if it does move down here, it's just going to be brought up again. They're going to give it a couple of shots till we hear something more concrete, maybe a headline or sort of maybe direct this thing a little bit more. All right, so I think that's what we've done. Aussie DXY, that's it for the charts through there. Gold silver ratio ripped up higher. This is obviously sort of what we were looking for yesterday, and for this is 4 hours, so for 12 hours we were looking good, and it was moving back down through here, and then bang, just exploded up with gold. Obviously, really just sort of actually gold was kind of consolidating through that period from 9 o'clock or so last night. The big sort of move of gold was probably more in this little down patch here. So look, should we see this sort of start to move back down here, this could be signaling a little bit more of a move down, but we're really coming back into high time frame resistance areas here. So, it's really more part of a larger sort of consolidation, albeit absolute swings, mayhem, absolutely everywhere. And this is what I've been saying to a mate as well while I was trading, is that sort of like these kind of things, like if this is the status quo for trading over the next 4 years, it's going to be insane trading environment, particularly for in-out sort of traders. But it's very, very sort of consuming. Like there's headlines just coming at any random time, and I've said this a few times, that that's why I don't really, well, partly the reason why I don't particularly like trading oil, um, uh, how what's called Bitcoin and cryptos and that sort of used to be. There's no sort of set time for necessarily bits of data. Like there are data coming out at set times, at least there are for oil, but at the same time, you can be in a position and then somebody gets bombed in Yemen or something overnight and your position gets blown out. You just can't predict that. It's just, as I said, it's not trading. It's like sort of playing Chinese. Well, that's not Chinese whispers, but that's like playing bingo. Like I hope my number doesn't come up, or in this case, I hope it does come up, whatever. Um, but yeah, that makes things a little bit difficult. All right. Anyway, let's flick along. Just have a quick look over data news for the day. So we had that business confidence come in, and it's come in for. So again, this is what I was saying over the weekend. It feels a little bit more positive, upbeat around here. We got the RBA next week as well, and I should also mention. And look, the market is heavily priced for a cut. There was a time last year, late last year, where Bullock was saying that she wanted to see two quarterly inflation numbers in target. Obviously, that hasn't been met yet. Well, not the two. So it's still, I don't believe in these 100%. Yes, it's going to be doing this kind of stuff. So I think the risk in there is that if they don't cut, you're going to see a fast unwinding of some of the short positions because they've been packing that for a long time. And even if they do cut, um, it's been in a big downtrend for a long time. So people have been positioning for this for the last 3, 4 months. I mean, we've seen a 10% drop off, not purely just because of that. Obviously, a lot of it is US dollar strength as well. But hand in hand, this is how they go. All right. Anyway, I think that's about it. Sort of for data today, we got Powell sort of testifying in the middle of the night. And that's about it. All right. Anyway, that's it from me.